I'd like you to meet Shadow. We adopted him about 3 months ago after he was close to being put down at a shelter. He's my first pet and we're his first permanent home at least. Since he's joined our little family, there's been some surprising and unexpected changes that have occurred in my life. And in this video, I want to share how those changes were made through Shadow and why I give him credit for it. So admittedly, I have some short limits on how much affection I can receive at any given time. That includes how often I can give it. But that only applies typically to human beings. But for Shadow has been different since he joined our family. You know, with him, my willingness to both give and receive affection is so much more open.
You want me to go?
And I think it's having a positive effect on me overall. And after thinking about it, I think the reason for that, the reason I'm so much more affectionate with him, is because it's so much easier to be yourself around animals. Their opinions of you have no consequences in the real world. So there's no risk. You know, for example, Shadow's opinion of me, an animal's opinion of you can't affect your job. It can't affect your status, your social status. Animals can't lie about you. I can be blunt and tell Shadow when he's being a bit of an asshole. And there's no feelings hurt for the long term at least. For example, today he broke my lamp. My favorite lamp back there, he broke it. And so he knocked it over, now it's on a bit of a slant. It's really just bouncing against the wall. It's not even being held up really. I've had a little bit of a grudge with him today. As you know, Shadow, man, you broke my lamp. Just don't talk to me right now. And you know, tomorrow we'll get up and everything will be cool again. There's no pressure to be cautious on the way I speak to him, worrying that he might misunderstand me or take what I say the wrong way. The communication style is very easy, and if there is miscommunication, it's not severe. I don't have to worry about him going off and continuing his life and thinking that I said something that I didn't really say. You know, there's no confusion there. Everything is very simple when we're communicating. He doesn't take offense to the verbal expressions or opinions that I give. He has no opinion or judgment on them. He doesn't care if I've made mistakes or I'm a flawed human being. He doesn't care if I'm attractive. Cats don't care if you're ugly or pretty or whatever. They don't care. Very low maintenance, but it still brings a comfort. And most of all, I don't ever have to talk to him. I don't have to talk to him. I can, we do talk. It's your first real live battle. You've been training for this. Oh, he's chewing on it. Ah! You did it. Good job, buddy. But if he's in the room or he's sitting there and I'm petting him, I don't have to verbally engage in that kind of conversation. We can just sit there and just be there. You know, as you know, for the most part, if you're around humans, you have to talk. For Shadow, I can just be there and no talk. I don't have to worry about conversation. I don't have to worry about making sure he's entertained. We can just be there and just be cool. It's so easy to be around somebody like that. And I think because he's made me more affectionate with him, it's made me more affectionate like in other areas of my life. One of the goals I've been trying to get better at is when I finish the task, clearing my mind of everything about that task, giving myself space to just be there, mindfulness you could call it, just to reset and create space between the tasks. And then go on to the new task, ideally with a clear mind. And then do that between every single thing I do throughout the day, ideally. In general though, it's challenging for me to let go of my thoughts. When I think about something, I'm usually very attached to that thought and I like to see it all the way through. And if I can't, I at least write it down so I can think about it later on. But when I have an incomplete thought, the problem is I go into a new task and the thoughts from the previous task bleed into that one. And then I do something else and I'm thinking about the past thing and then it compounds. And so the problem with that is that by the end of the day, I'm first of all, realizing in hindsight that I didn't do any of the individual tasks with my complete focus because I was thinking about something else. And then B, I get to the end of the day and I'm mentally drained because my mind was going nonstop and I didn't give myself any mental break. So it's not great for your state of mind. So enter what I call transitional presence. This is what Shadow's been helping me with unknowingly. I call it transitional presence, but it's really just a therapeutic practice I'm using to counteract my overthinking and my overactive mind throughout the day. I think I'm going to make a video specifically on this practice, but in summary, transitional presence is exactly what the name suggests. It's about being present, being mindful, being in the moment, clearing your mind as you transition from each task throughout your day. You could think of it as a meditation that's sprinkled throughout your day. For me, it leaves a space for mindfulness, which is super important for my mental balance. You may have heard of a similar concept, maybe it goes by a different name, and it sounds really simple, and it is, but it's just not easy to do consistently, at least not for me, because it's so easy to let your mind be taken by the current of you know all the stuff that goes on in this world, allow especially negative things to take your focus. And so for me, this is a practice of taking my focus back. Now this is where shadow has really changed my life, because now it's so effortless. When I'm done a task, maybe I'm done writing or working on a video, coming home from the gym, working, whatever. When I finish something, the moment I'm done, my first thought is to go track down Shadow, see where he's at, and then sit down and be present with him. Just interact with him, pet him, talk to him, play with him, just being there. No thoughts, no wonderings about the past or the future, or what I was doing or what I want to do or what I got to do. I'm just there. And it's just so easy to just not think in the presence of a cat. And this easy desire to take moments throughout the day with him is like a pillow being put between each task, especially the stressful ones.
Just walking our cat.
Walking our cat. It allows you to just decompress and really, divide up the day. It feels better. And the best part of this is that it's so effortless. Who wouldn't want to spend a little bit of time with something that's soft, cute, affectionate, fun, interesting? It doesn't take much effort. There's no discipline involved in taking a moment every time I've done something to go and see him. He makes it effortless, and that makes it so good for the day-to-day grind that is living life. It's gotten to the point now where even if I'm not around Shadow, I'm still taking these big, long brain breaths because I've gotten used to it. I've created a force of habit with this routine that I have with him. And it really is like a breath for your brain, because it just allows you to get out of what you're doing and just take a mental inhale and exhale and not think, disconnect from the thing that you were doing before or the concerns that popped up throughout your day. Find a place to connect with your senses before moving on anew into the next thing. It's breathing for your mind. And the good thing is it doesn't take very long. It could be literally just 30 seconds, 2 minutes. It doesn't have to be anything like crazy. And I think the reason it works so well between me and Shadow is that we both enjoy solitude, but we can welcome moments of interaction. It's amazing how little time it takes for your mind to go from a chaotic space to a calm space, just based on what you choose to do in your mind. So I think with me and Shadow, we have an understanding that makes our relationship mutually beneficial. So that's how he helped me on the sort of mental, emotional side. But he's also really helped me on the physical side as well. I'm always really impressed with the variety of ways that he can fling his body into, the angles and postures he can put himself into. That shouldn't be a surprise. He's a cat, I get that. But what I'm surprised by is that every single time he gets up from a resting position, sleeping, just kind of sitting for an extended period of time, he hits the ground and he stretches. He does a variety of dynamic stretches. The main focus is his spine. I guess what surprised me is just how much effort a cat has to put into having the flexible body that they have. I just thought cats were flexible. I'm realizing there's a daily practice that he puts into place every single day. And so as I started noticing his daily routine and how this practice clearly contributes to his amazing mobility, it genuinely inspired me to take my flexibility up to the next level. Stretching has always been one of those nagging problems for me that I know I want to do and I know the benefits of it, but I just haven't been able to do it. But seeing him go through his routine, it's flicked a switch in my mind. Because now I have a reference of a very amazing body and the schedule that's required in order to get that. And I'm seeing it every single day. For me, Shadow has become a walking, talking, daily reminder of what I want to be like. He's my accountability partner. Because I want my body to be as fluid as his, at least as much as humanly possible. So he's the grandmaster of stretching and creating space in his body, and I'm the student that's kind of looking around the corner and watching what he's doing. He's teaching me as he goes along. And the thing is, I already do yoga twice a week. I go to my local recreational facility and I do yoga Mondays and Wednesdays. The missing key in my practice is having things I'm doing throughout the day, in between or during the activities that I'm doing. And for me now, I don't think in the past 3 months, I don't think there's been one day that's gone by where I didn't get on the ground or go up against the wall and do some type of intentional stretch and movement, create space in my body. And I give that 100% credit to Shadow. Not for the idea, but for the ability and path for me to be consistent with it. And I don't want to stop this. I think for the first time in my life, I'm really understanding the value of having a body that can move and bend and twist When you're younger, you're focused on gaining muscle, looking good, but now it's about feeling good. And my body is feeling better than it's felt my whole life. So I don't want to stop. I want this to be a daily practice that I do for the rest of my life. You know, living to your 90s is cool, I guess, but it's not cool if you're a slave to this broken body. And so as long as I'm on this earth, I'm living in this bag of meat and bones. I want to make sure I'm able to be as free as I possibly can. And I can't be free if my joints are hurting and I can't bend over and I'm constantly worried about losing my balance. What's the point of living if you can't use your body and have some fun? Which brings me to my next point. Since becoming part of our family, I've started noticing things about shadow that I'm realizing is and has always been a part of me as well. But I just didn't realize it till now. One thing we've been trying to make sure we do is keep Shadow constantly stimulated. So we've bought him toys, and for the most part, he enjoys the toy for a few days, and then he figures it out. He knows the pattern, he knows what its limitations are and what it does, and I think he just loses interest. But there's one thing that we got him almost at the very beginning, and it's just a long stick with a bunch of feathers at the end that we swing around and he chases it. I didn't understand why for a while, but he's obsessed with this little feather stick. Oh, it's probably the biggest jump he's done yet. When we bring it out, his eyes lock onto that, and he'll sit there for 30 minutes going back and forth to the point where he's huffing and puffing. I eventually realized why he likes this feather stick thing. And it's because it's the most challenging toy he has. And why is it challenging? It's because I'm controlling it. It's a worthy competitor. And so it's never predictable. And so it's always engaging. It's always fun. If the activity is not challenging, then he doesn't play. If he doesn't play, then he doesn't use up his energy. If he doesn't use up his energy, then he doesn't sleep. And he's cranky. And he's a little pissy throughout the night. And then he keeps us up, and then we don't sleep. And then it becomes a bad day for him as well, because then we hold a little bit of a grudge. And so the challenged play is super important. Competition is important for his mental health. And I realized I'm the same way. Competition and being challenged both physically and mentally is extremely important for my satisfaction and my mental health. All my life, the most consistent and best joys in my life have involved me engaging my body and my mind in competition or challenged forms of play. When I was a kid, it's playing tag at recess, lunch, after school. When you're a teenager or when I was an adolescent, I was playing like manhunt with 30 people around the block. When I'm, a teenager, young adult for the rest of your life, for me, it's playing basketball, getting into any sport I can to really just engage my body, engage my senses, these instincts that have developed over time as human beings. And that's been the best form of play and excitement and stimulation for me throughout my whole life. And I know that everyone understands how great having fun is, right? Like playing and having fun is good for everybody. But what I didn't realize is that it's not just enough to play for me. It has to be challenging. It has to be competitive. I didn't realize that nuance. And my mental health is very much tied up in my ability to have challenged play in my weekly routine. You know that 2-year period where the whole world basically shut down and we couldn't do the kind of things that we normally do? During that period, I was no longer able to engage in playing basketball or going out and playing sports like I normally would. So for almost 2 years, both my body and my mind wasn't able to engage in the one thing that has been consistently there all my life to push me and to give me something to work towards. And both my mental and physical health suffered during those 2 years. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize the nuance around why my mental health is so important when it comes to basketball or running or something like that. I didn't get it. I get it now. I did eventually a couple of years ago. I bought a VR headset, and so I found games that would allow me to engage in challenged play, to socialize, to challenge my mind. It's very physical. You're flying and running and shooting and dodging and all that stuff. And having it back in my life really improved my mental health. And I realized I didn't know how important competitive play was until it got removed from my life. And I think that speaks to the way a lot of things work. You don't realize how much you love something, you need something until it's gone. In Shadow's case, on days that we forget to engage with him competitively in some way, I notice the change in his mood. He becomes more agitated, he's more on edge and jittery, he's running around all over the place, breaking things, he doesn't sleep very well, we don't sleep very well, And so we've tried to make it a practice to not only give him something to play with, but interact and play with him on a daily basis.
Play a little fetch.
Typically before bed.
Try to bring it to him.
And the interesting thing is, I think there's a seriously big connection between that challenged play and a sense of well-being and satisfaction in our life. And I think dealing with Shadow and kind of watching him develop and grow has really showed me not how important it is to him, but for how important it is for me. You know, I never considered myself a cat person. I was fine not getting a cat and just waiting to have a dog once we had a bigger space. But Danielle was really looking forward to getting a cat, so we took that plunge. I thought cats were kind of dull and boring and just laid around and didn't do anything. But Shadow's proved me wrong. Cats are really awesome creatures. They're complex. They have personalities. Shadow's a friend now. He's genuinely a friend and part of the family. And I look to him throughout the day for comfort and companionship. In just a few short months, Shadow has changed my perspective in some very important parts of my life. And I think it's been an interesting experience living with a completely different creature and seeing how they operate, seeing the similarities. Because if you think about it, cats are really, 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 really distant cousins. And so seeing the path that they evolved into and the path that we evolved into from the same point sometime way, way, way back has been super interesting. And I'm sure I'm going to learn continuously more things about him and myself as we continue to build our relationship. And so what about you? Have you ever had a cat before? Or some type of a furry friend? And if you did, what was the improvement to your life? What did they bring to your life? Maybe something you expected, maybe something you didn't expect like me. Let me know down below. I'd love to hear about it. And if you enjoyed this video, maybe you'll enjoy this one up here somewhere. YouTube seems to think that you're specifically going to like that video. So go ahead and give that a watch, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.